Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here. It has been a while, especially for this game. We are back with classic 1995 Warhammer Quest. The old adventuring party has returned. We're now at battle level 4, so let's reintroduce the Louts of Chaos. Amoral, gluttonous, intoxicated followers of the Dark Gods, kind of like the Chaos Gods frat party. First of all, we have the leader, the guy with the lantern, our Barbarian, Lief the Legbiter. Up to battle level 4, has 32 wounds, has a toughness of 9. He actually has a toughness of 10 this game because of an encounter he had the game before. He has tons of magic items at this point. His favorite weapon is a magical club that is +1 to hit and does +1 damage per level, so +4 damage each hit. And he just picked up the skill Reaction Strike, so now when a monster is placed next to him, he gets to make a single attack. The attack isn't affected by any psychology rules, but it also can't make death blows. Next up is our wizard, 100 Luftballoon. Again, battle level 4, up to toughness 5 with 18 wounds. He's been using his magic axe more these days than the staff. The axe is +1 to hit with +1 attack. He does still carry around his wizard staff though, that will allow him to reroll a 1 on the power phase once per game. The next two characters both have the same initiative, so we had to roll randomly to see which one would be operating first on any given turn, and we get Ivor Shando, our Chaos Dwarf. Again, battle level 4, toughness 9. These armored guys are getting tough to hurt at this point, 28 wounds. He's got less stuff than the rest of the companions because he has not been around as long, but he does have the Ogre Slayer, which causes +3 damage if he's a dwarf, which he is, and the Boots of Battle, which give him an extra attack at -1 to hit and +1 strength. And then, of course, we have the blender himself, Naughtiness Maximus, our pit fighter. Toughness 5 with 35 wounds. On any given round, he has 4 attacks with his Fist Spike, which is magical and causes +d6 wounds on the roll of a 6, and that, of course, is in addition to him just doing 2d6 points of damage every time he hits because he has damage of 2. He also has 2 knee spike attacks and an additional attack from his toe blades, which again we enchanted. Again, that causes an extra d6 wounds on the roll of a 6. So 7 attacks around, just kinda gross. His most notable regular magic item is the Time Freeze Ring, which gives my warriors an extra warrior phase once per adventure. So that's the Louts. All we have to do now is go to the adventure book and randomly determine a mission. We draw the Tomb Chamber and get the Identify mission. This one is real straightforward. 2 local Chaos Warlords have gotten into a dispute about an inheritance, and so they hire us to dig up their ancestors' bones to resolve it. I guess if we can identify the body, then we can determine who gets the inheritance. It's run exactly like a regular Warhammer Quest mission, but when we clear out the monsters from the Tomb Chamber, we roll a d6. If the skeleton has no teeth, then it belongs to an honorable Chaos Warlords family, and we all get paid 1d6 times 100 gold. If it's missing its left hand, then that's too bad. The inheritor is a deceitful, lying son of a gun, and we don't get anything. We take 6 random dungeon cards, shuffle in the Tomb Chamber, then we put 6 more dungeon cards on top of that for our standard deck of 13 cards. We draw the first card, and we get the guard room. Always nice to have a room for our first room of a dungeon, because no monsters spawn in there, and it means it's more likely we get corridors for the rest of the adventure. We get to place ourselves wherever we like, so we start on the far side of the guard room. Roll the first power score of the game. I roll a 6. I'm adding 3 to that, because 100 is now a level 4 wizard. I think technically I'm supposed to add 4 to it. When you go up a level, it says you just add your wizard's level. Always seemed weird because you never did that at first level, so I'm just sticking with this way. I'm just going to add 3 to the power score. It gives us a total of 9. It doesn't really matter. It just means that there's no unexpected event. We go to the exploration phase, and we get a stairway, basically just a corridor. Next round, we get a power score of 6. We just move down the corridor like that. Power score 5 for the next round. We move up to the end of the stairway. We explore in the exploration phase, and we find a corridor. Power score 8, move into the corridor. My formation got a little janky because when I went to explore in the last round, I put myself in that L formation just in case monsters sprang out and attacked me. I didn't want my lead guys to be stuck behind my other 2 guys, so now we're a little off, but it's fine. Power score 5, still no unexpected events. Move to the end of the passageway. We explore the dungeon cell. Okay, here we got a room, so when we pop in there, we're going to find something. Power score 5, still no unexpected events. We move into the far corner of the dungeon cell and we draw an event card and we get a monster. Alright, first time rolling on the level 4 monster chart, we get D6 Demonettes. Fantastic, something new. But not a lot new. Turns out we only get 1 of them, so a lone demonette bravely throws herself into the middle of my party. Demonites are kind of interesting. Toughness 3 with 15 wounds, 3 attacks at weapon skill 6 but only strength 3 and damage of 1d6. They do ambush on the roll of a 5+, this one does not. Magic resistance of 6+ means that on the roll of a 6, then a given spell won't affect them. Fear of 6, so when the warriors go to attack the demonette, they have to roll a d6, add the battle level, and if it is 6 or less, then they are -1 to hit. And demonic -1 means that if I'm trying to attack the demonette with something that isn't a magical weapon, then I have -1 to hit. Almost all my guys have magical weapons, so that's not really going to matter. Onward and downward. The pit fighter doesn't have any reaction from this on his pit fighter reaction chart, but the barbarian does get his reaction strike, so he gets a single attack, and I'm using my fancy magic club. Lief does manage to hit. I don't have to worry about fear because reaction strike doesn't take psychology into effect. It's just an automatic, intuitive flailing around of the sword when something pops out in front of me. Does a very healthy 10 points of damage to the demonette. I don't think this fight is going to last real long. So on to the next round, we get a power score of 5. You know what, let's have Hundert deal with it. He passes his fear test. If he had failed, then the power score of the spell he wants to cast would have been increased by 1. I'm going to use Firehammer. Haven't gotten to use that very often. Firehammer does 3d6 wounds to a monster adjacent to Hundert. The demonette's magic resistance doesn't protect her. Hundert rolls an 11 minus the demonette's toughness of 3, does 8 points of damage, more than the 5 she had remaining. Demonette is down. Yeah, sure enough, that didn't last real long. We roll up an item of treasure, and we get darting steel blades, which are not particularly good magic weapons. +1 attack, you hit automatically, but you only do d6 damage. Ivor, you can have those. He doesn't need them, and he didn't do anything during the combat, but he could really use the cash, so there you go. So with that brief combat out of the way, nobody bothers to move, we explore at the end of the round, and we find another passageway. New round, power score 8, just move into the passageway. Power score 9, we move up to the end, and we explore, we get another room, Circle of Power. Power score of 6, we move into the room and we draw a card and we get an event card. So we're going to roll on the chart from the roleplay book. For the event, we roll up 51 footprints. We find some suspicious footprints leading to a blank wall, and we can choose to investigate it if we like. On the roll of a 1, it's a trap. We get bonked on the head and take some damage. On a 2, we're too dumb and we don't find anything. On a 3 through 6, we find a secret passageway, which leads us to a couple extra rooms and a new objective room. The objective room will have 2 rolls on the objective room monster chart, and if we kill all the monsters, we get 1,000 gold. No thank you. This is my first time using battle level 4 monsters, and I don't know what they're going to be like at the objective room. Generally speaking, at these levels, we're rolling like 3 times on either the battle level 4 monster chart or higher ones. To do that twice will give us a lot of bad guys, and really, killing the monsters will get us a lot more gold than just 1,000. It's not worth it. At lower levels, it might have been nice, but at this point, it's just taking up time. So thanks, but no thanks, we're just moving on. End of the round, we explore through the next doorway, and we find a corner. New round and roll a 1 for the power score is bound to happen eventually. This time we get a monster, and we get a lot of them. We get 24 goblins with spears, 1 Night Goblin Fanatic, and a Goblin Big Boss. Goblin Big Boss gets a magic weapon. We give him the Cutting Edge Sword, which causes +4 wounds on a hit. So that's a real crowded passageway. So as always with these monsters, the monsters that are listed first get placed first. So we've just got this horde of goblins with spears in front of us, and then the Fanatic and the boss at the edges. Honestly, I'm not too worried about this. I think these goblins are going to have a real tough time getting through our armor. But as they are placed, Lief does get his 1 reaction strike, which uses it to kill off a single goblin. Again, no pit fighter reaction, and we're on to the hero turn. Lief is up first. He does not go to Berserk because he hasn't killed anyone yet. Lief's going to forgo his really powerful club, and he's just going to use his magical Blade of Leaping Bronze for +2 attacks. With that, he kills off all 4 goblins that are around him. We're over to Hundert. Hundert steps over the bodies that Lief has left on the floor, and then he uses that attack that's +1 attack, +1 to hit, and he kills off 5 goblins all by himself. Frontline wizard, nicely done. Ivor moves up through the carnage. He adds to the tally by killing off 3 goblins, and then we're on to Naughtiness Maximus. Naughtiness Maximus is good for this room clearing kind of stuff because if he kills a model with his fist spike, he gets to move into the space where the model died, allowing him to punch his way through a crowd of weak enemies. So he's going to move off to the left with a mission. He's going to start punching into the goblins. He kills off 2 of them. Then that gets him next to the Goblin Big Boss, which I'd really like to kill before he starts swinging that magic sword of his. He's then going to use his toe blades to kick the goblins at the far end of the corridor because the toe blades will give him the death blow ability so he can sweep through that whole area. Kills off 2 of them and then lands a hit on the goblin big boss. Maxes out the damage, causes 10 damage. The goblin big boss only has 12 and the toe spikes allowed me to ignore his 2 points of armor. Kill off the big boss with my remaining attacks, leaving just 1 night goblin next to me. So that was a lot of carnage as we move on to the monsters phase. The goblins on the right-hand passageway move up, but they can't possibly get through Lief's armor, so they can't hurt him. The fanatic is stuck behind them. The lone remaining goblin in that sea of dead bodies does stab at Naughtiness Maximus and hits him for 4 points of damage. Good job, Goblin. 100 Luftballoon uses the 1 power he got from this round to heal Naughtiness Maximus up 1 using Cure Small Wounds. And we're done. New round and power score of 7. We're going to start off with 100. 100's going to lob a fireball, one of the spells he picked up recently, at the far end of the right-hand corridor, at those 3 goblins and the fanatic. Blasts all 4 of them. Lief's up, he goes berserk, which is bad news for the 2 goblins in front of him. They are quickly butchered. 100 takes out his axe and finishes off the 1 goblin that failed to hurt him the round before. Ivor Shando moved off to the left to kill off that last goblin. And so Naughtiness Maximus just made his way back to the rest of the group over on the right. So that's it, the combat is over, we go for a new treasure. We get the Sword of Resilience, which gives the person wielding it +1 toughness, not too great. I guess it's kind of a defensive item, we can give it to 100. Speaking of 100, he's got 1 power left, uses it to heal up 1 more point off of Naughtiness Maximus. So new round, power score of 5, and we've got a small problem. I'd like to get the party moving again, but if Lief the Legbiter moves forward into that corner passageway, then that puts Ivor 2 rooms away and he'd be lost in the darkness and bad things would happen. So he just has to wait. We make small moves and wait for Ivor to catch up to the rest of the group. 100 does manage to heal Naughtiness Maximus back up to full. But it's no big deal. Next round, power score of 5, we move into the corner section. Power score of 7 for the next round, move a little bit further, and we get a T-junction. You gotta get one of those every adventure. Another power score of 5, we're going to move into the T-junction. I think I'm going to head off to the right. There's 2 cards on that side, there's 3 cards on the other. Normally I go down the larger hallway, but any one of these cards can be the objective room. I'm going to go down the short path first. That means I can just peek my head in that last room. If not the one, I can just turn around the other way. Less backtracking if I pick the wrong path. Power score is 7, move to the right-hand side of the T-junction, explore, find the Well of Doom. So no objective room still. And the next round comes around and we get a 1 again. Ambushed by monsters, we find ourselves 2 stone trolls. That could be interesting. Draw warrior counters to see who they're going after. One of them's going after 100, the other one's going after Naughtiness Maximus. Gotta target my weakest guys, that's not cool. Not only that, Lief the Legbiter misses with his reaction strike. Naughtiness Maximus, however, rolls a 5 or 6 on his reaction chart, his Pitfighter reaction chart, and gets a full combat round before this battle begins. Cool. We're going to attack the one that's going after our wizard. Got to protect the healer. He passes his fear test, and when all the dust settles, he's done 23 points of damage to the stone troll, which isn't bad. The stone trolls only have 25 wounds, so this one is half an inch away from being dead. The stone trolls do, however, have magic drain of 6+. We roll d6, and sure enough, we get a 6. So that 1 power that 100 had to work with today, that goes away. That could be worse. So over to the hero turn, and Lief is up first. And thanks to all those goblins that he had killed earlier, he's got no problem passing his berserk roll, and he gets his +1 attack. He fails his fear test, which means he's -1 to hit, but it's not really that big a deal because this troll is gonna die. Lief has no problem dispatching it over to 100 Luftballoon. 100 moves up to the remaining troll. He's not worried because he's focusing on Naughtiness Maximus. Passes his fear test, but misses all 3 times with his magic axe. Nice job, 100. Ivor fails his fear test as well. Some particularly scary trolls in this passageway. And Ivor misses with both of his axe attacks and his boots of battle. Come on, guys, get it together. So now it's up to the pit fighter. He is not afraid. He goes ahead and hits with his fist spike. He hits all 4 times, so all the luck in the room has shifted over to Naughtiness. One of those punches is with a crit, so it gets an extra d6 of damage through. The troll takes a grand total of 45 points of damage, which is nearly double what he had to start with. That's a very, very dead troll. For treasure, we get a healing potion, which is just fine. Naughtiness Maximus, there you go. You can have that. You deserved it. So another brief combat down. We're on to the next round. Get ourselves a power score of 9. In accordance with the plan, we move on to the room on the right. Draw an encounter, and we get an event. The event we get is number 43, Locked Door, which is a pain because I keep forgetting to buy lockpicks at the Dwarf Guild when I go into town. I have also forgotten that I gave Hundert the spell Open, which allows me to just open these doors. So I thought this was going to be a real hassle. It was going to prevent me from moving forward. So I used one of my rerolls, my once per adventure rerolls, one of Lief's specifically, to reroll the ones digit of this encounter. I really didn't need to, but whatever. So re-rolling, we get Old Bones. We find a bunch of skeleton bits on the floor, and we have to roll a d6. We roll a 6 this time, which is fantastic. It means that there's a bunch of gold underneath all the bones. Everyone gets 2d6 times 10 gold. Lief gets 80, 100 gets 40, Ivor gets 60, and Naughtiness gets 40. In addition, we draw one treasure card. Lief hasn't gotten anything yet, so he gets the Axe of Khemri. Kind of a cool name, but it's really only so-so. It has the same rules as the axe that the dwarf starts with, and in addition it gets +1 to hit against undead. I'll stick with my club, thanks. Anyway, after all that, we do get to explore the next passageway, so we find a corridor. That's the last card on that section of the T section, so we don't bother going in there. We know it's a dead end. Time to go back the other way. Been rolling pretty well for the encounters. I haven't met a lot of monsters, but not getting a lot of luck with finding the objective room. So new round, power score 7, we move back the other direction. Round after that, we get a 7 as well. Now we're in the middle of the T section. Power score 9, move over to the left-hand side of the T-junction. Only 3 out of the 7 cards left. Can we find the objective room? No, we can't. Find another passageway. Power score 8, move on into the passageway. And then we roll another 1, and we get another event. And the event we get is number 54, Change of Plan. This one is a weird one, and it is not great. So a cloaked figure moves up to us from the darkness and says, guess what? It's more dangerous down there than you knew. You have to turn around and go the other way, and I'll give you 750 gold for doing so. Now, if we do this, we have to roll for monster encounters and all that kind of thing. But 750 gold is not bad. However, it turns out this guy isn't super trustworthy, so when we either move on and complete the mission, or turn around and reach the dungeon entrance, we have to roll a d6. On a 1 through 3, it turns out this stranger was a liar, and he was just tricking us, which is not hard to do. If we abandon the quest and turned around, we all lose 1d6 times 100 gold. Gotta try and make amends for screwing up the mission this badly. If we finish the adventure as usual, then nothing happens. So losing 1d6 times 100 gold is kind of a lot. But if we roll a 4 through 6, then he was telling the truth. If we turned around, then we get our 750 gold. Great. But if we didn't turn around and we went to the objective room instead, then we roll twice on the objective room monster chart, which, as I was talking about before, could be really bad. So that's kind of a nasty one. Could be nothing, could be fine, or we could really have a problem on our hands. I could re-roll it. I've got the re-rolls to do that kind of thing, but I think I'm just going to run with it, and I think I don't trust this guy. I want to complete the mission. First of all, we're almost all the way through the adventure as it is. I really don't want to turn around and go all the way back. Second, he just looks kind of shifty. And finally, we have to roll a die. On a 1, 2, or 3, we draw another event card, and sure enough, we do. And we get yet another event. We get the Flames of Kozla. Yeah, I don't know about this stranger hanging around with all these flames and that kind of thing. So what happens with the Flames of Kozla is the doors suddenly slam shut and there's these burning braziers. And I guess it's kind of like an ordeal by fire. The deal is there's 2 of these burning pots and we have to choose one of our warriors and he's got to stick his hands into both of them. We roll 2 dice. If he scores 2 3 pluses, then hey, great. The flames don't hurt him, he's passed the test, and the doors open. For every 1 or 2 that he rolls, though, he takes d6 plus 1 points of damage with no modifiers for toughness or armor. That's what you get when you just stick your face in some fire. And if all of our warriors fail, well then the shutters never open and we're stuck in there for like 72 hours and we all suffocate to death. So, no pressure. I'm going to try Lief first because he is just a sack of hit points. He's got all the wounds to burn. Might as well try him. Unfortunately, I guess what happens when you just drink nonstop is your blood alcohol is, well, you're basically flammable. So he rolls a 1 or a 2 and he takes 4 points of damage and doesn't pass the test. Not terribly shocking. We're going to move on to Naughtiness Maximus. See if he does a little bit better. And he does. Rolls 2 3 pluses. The test is passed, the door's open, we don't just become skeletons trapped inside a locked room. Nice. 100 goes and uses the 1 power that we had to heal 1 point of damage back on Lief. Okay, new round, power score of 8. Lief is healed the rest of the way by 100. We move up to the end of the passageway. We explore an exploration phase. There's only 2 cards left. One of them has to be the Tomb Chamber, and it is. Finally get there. Second to last card, but we found it. But before we can go in there, we have to roll another power score, and we get a 1 again, and this time it's monsters. A lot of monsters. We get 12 Skaven Storm Vermin and a Rat Ogre. I'm kind of happy about this. I had painted those Skaven Storm Vermin for the level 3 monsters. Now I finally get to use them. The Rat Ogre gets placed first, and he's attacking Naughtiness Maximus at the back of the pack. The Storm Vermin aren't really that big a deal. 1 attack, weapon skill 4, strength 4, toughness 3, 5 wounds. Meh. Just to prove that they're not all that cool, Lief goes ahead and immediately dispatches 1 with his reaction strike. No pit fighter reaction for Naughtiness Maximus, so straight onto the hero phase. Lief goes berserk and quickly dispatches the 3 Storm Vermin that he is adjacent to. 100 helps out by turning around and killing off the Storm Vermin on the other side. That leaves Ivor only in contact with 1 Storm Vermin, but I guess that's too much to ask from him. Again, he goes and misses 3 times in a row. Ivor, come on. You hit on 3s and 4s. Just embarrassing at this point. So that brings us to Naughtiness Maximus, and he does not do a whole lot better. He passes the fear test for attacking the Rat Ogre, but then goes and misses with all but 1 of his attacks, causing a measly 7 points of damage. That could be bad news, Naughtiness. These Rat Ogres punch pretty hard. Okay, with a pretty suboptimal end to the first hero phase, we're over to the Skaven. Storm Vermin move up. They can't actually get through Lief's armor, so he's not worried. Naughtiness takes a hit, but doesn't take any damage. Storm Vermin rolls a 1 on the number of damage that it causes, as does Naughtiness Maximus. The Rat Ogre punches a little bit harder, does land a strike on Naughtiness, causes 7 points of damage. 100 is on hand to heal up 1 of those. Yeah, that could have been a lot worse. New round, roll another 1. Get another event, which I guess is better than more monsters. We get number 23, which is Encounter with a Gold Digger. So an old dwarf comes by, he claims to be the lord of the dungeon, I assume a chaos dwarf, it's gotta be. So in the middle of this fight, he decides it's a good time to come up to my guys and ask for 100 gold each. Otherwise, I guess he won't let them go any further, or whatever. We could, of course, go and kill them, but then each of my guys has to roll a d6, and on the roll of a 1, he curses them. Some chaos dwarf, sorcerer curse, that kind of thing. I choose 1 of that hero's characteristics and permanently reduce it by 1, which is no good. You know, whatever. You say this is your dungeon, that's fine. I got money to burn. Each of my guys hands off 100 gold. Now get out of here. I'm fighting giant rats. We do have to roll a d6. On a 1, 2, or 3, we get another event. Thankfully, we don't. We go on with the fight. Lief continues his vermin abatement policy and kills off the 2 storm vermin that he's in contact with. Hunter manages to break his pin and he moves off to the right. The idea is that if I kill off this storm vermin that's locking down Ivor, he can move over to the right and help out with the Rat Ogre and those other guys. So yeah, the first part of the plan goes pretty well. He passes his pin check, moves over to the right, but then he flubs his attack rolls and only causes 2 points of damage to the storm vermin. Ivor does finally get his act together and kill it off, but now that leaves Naughtiness Maximus again facing off against that Rat Ogre and the angry storm vermin. To start things off, we're going to go with the toe blades. He kills off the storm vermin that he's in contact with. The death blow continues on into the Rat Ogre. That causes a crit for 11 points of damage. Naughtiness then goes and kills off the Rat Ogre with a knee spike. Much better. Back to the storm vermin. The storm vermin on the left moves up but can't hurt Lief. The 2 storm vermin on the right move into Naughtiness Maximus. He takes another hit, but again it can't get through his pit fighter armor. That's working out for me. 100 manages to heal Naughtiness by 1 with Cure Small Wounds, and we're on to the next round. So cool, finally get a power score that's not a 1. We get a 7. Lief kills off the storm vermin that he's fighting. 100's feeling pretty confident that his companions can kill off the rest of these guys. He moves off to the left to the passageway. Now that all the hard fighting is done, Ivor decides that he's going to be the big hero. He moves 1 space to the right and manages to kill off the 2 remaining storm vermin. Naughtiness Maximus sarcastically claps as he moves over to the left. Finally ready to go into the objective room. 100 heals 3 points off of Naughtiness Maximus, and he also gets the Boots of Flight. The Boots of Flight are interesting. You can use them for an entire adventure. You're -1 to be hit the whole time. You can cross over chasms, pits, etc. unimpeded, but once you're done with the adventure, then you gotta discard them. I don't know, kind of cool. Maybe if we ever go to the fire chasm or something like that, it might be a thing to do. But now it's time to move. New round, power score of 7, and we rush into the tomb chamber. And of course, we're using the different levels rules from the layer of the Orc Lord. So if we're on the stairs or up a level, then we're -1 to be hit and +1 to hit on lower level monsters, and vice versa. If we're trying to attack a monster on a higher level, then we're -1 to hit and +1 to be hit. So we want to get on the top level. The only person who's not able to get there is Ivor. Sorry, buddy. Naughtiness is healed up to full by 100. And we got to find out whether or not the stranger was lying about this area being particularly dangerous. If we roll a 4+, then we got to roll twice on the objective room monster chart, which is no bueno. But we roll a 1, 2, or 3. Yeah, we were right. That guy was Shifty, and he was telling us lies. Adventure proceeds as normal. Great. So we roll on the objective room monster chart, and we get a pretty reasonable result. We roll 3 times on the battle level 4 monster chart, which is about as good as you can expect. The first roll we get are D3 +1 mummies, and we roll the bare minimum. We get 2 mummies. The next roll we get are D6 +2 beastmen and a beastman champion. Again, rolling pretty low, we only end up with 4 beastmen. And finally we get D6 demonettes. Guess what? I guess this tomb chamber had some maximum occupancy rules or something like that, because we only roll 1 demonette again. Nice, I think we should wrap up this game pretty fast. Bunch of stuff to do first though. First of all, Demonette gets an ambush attack on the roll of a 5+, fails, doesn't get it. Next, the Beastmen all have throwing spears, which means that as soon as they're placed, they're going to make a single ballistic skill attack against a random model. Now, the 4 Beastmen either don't hit or don't cause any damage with their strength 3 spears that hit on 4+. However, the Beastman champion is a little bit different. He hits on a 3+, and his spear is strength 8. Which is a lot, and he targets 100, because of course, and he hits him, causing a total of 5 points of damage. So a 2 on the damage die could have been worse. Next, we have a reaction strike from Lief the Legbiter. I think I'm going to try something a little bit cheesy. Lief the Legbiter is going to make his reaction strike with the Frostblade. The Frostblade is a 1-use per adventure magic sword. If I hit and cause a wound with it, then the model is completely killed, just taken right off the table. The issue is I can only make 1 attack with it, but since I can only make 1 attack with this reaction strike anyway, hey, I think I can go ahead and do that. And I'm going to target the mummy. The mummies have a toughness of 5 and 40 wounds, which is a lot. Not only that, at the end of every round, they cause D3 points of damage to everyone they're adjacent to. That's the Tomb Rot special rule, and as far as I can tell, they just got placed on the board. It's not the end of the round yet. We're going to take damage from that. But not if they're dead. And sure enough, Lief goes and hits the mummy, causes at least 1 point of damage, and so he just dies. Maybe not how the Frostblade is meant to be used, but I'm going to do it that way, because as far as I can tell, there's nothing preventing me. That does mean that there is one more mummy hanging around, and he is in contact with Naughtiness, Maximus, and Ivor. Naughtiness is going to take 2 points of damage. Ivor is going to take 1. So new round, and we get a 1 for the power score. Something bad's gonna happen, but I am in the objective room. I have got a wizard staff. I'm not really in the mood. We're gonna re-roll that, thank you very much. We get a 6, which is a lot different, plus 100's wizard level gives us a 9. Yeah, I'm ready to wrap this thing up. We're going to start with Lief, who does pretty well. Again, he passes his berserk roll, gets his extra attack, doesn't slash his friends. He tries to break his pin. My hope was to move 1 square over to the right and dump all my attacks onto that mummy, see if I can't deal with him. I don't manage to make the roll to break the pin, even with my duck back skill that gives me a +1, so I'm stuck there. When all is said and done, I pass my fear test, I'm not afraid of the demonette, end up putting 12 points of damage on her, which is good, and I kill off 2 of the beastmen at the top of the room. 100 kills the beastmen on the bottom right. Ivor's up and he uses his grudge ability against the remaining mummy. This is a once per dungeon ability. It gives me +1 to hit a particular target, and if I kill it, I get double gold. Mummies are worth a lot of gold. I'd really like to pick that up. I pass my fear test. Unfortunately, I miss with my first attack, hit with my second for 5, and then I land a kick with the boots of battle for 4 points of damage. I'm not exactly sure what I was thinking using the Grudge Lord ability. It was going to be really unlikely that Ivor was going to kill this mummy in one go. I think maybe I thought Naughtiness Maximus wouldn't be able to finish him off and Ivor would be able to kill him the next round, but that is not the case. It took him all 7 of his attacks, but Naughtiness Maximus did finally bring down the mummy. We've done pretty well, and that would normally be the end of the round, but I got a couple of things I want to do first. First of all, Hundred's a little mad about getting hit with a spear from this Beastman champion. Turns out he has a spear of his own. It was a magic item he picked up a while ago. He's gonna chuck it at the Beastman champion. It hits on a 3+, and it hits. And then it does a 3d6 points of damage minus the Beastman's toughness and armor. In the end, causes 10 points to the Beastman champion. Beastman champion, though, is no slouch. Toughness 4 with 30 wounds. Hundred's then going to go ahead and use a fire hammer on the same guy. Rolls pretty low, though. Only does 2 more points of damage. But we are getting real close to the end of this adventure, so I'm going to go and I'm going to break out Naughtiness' Maximus's time freeze ring, and we're going to do it all over again. We're going to get a whole new warrior phase. So back to the top of the order. Lief is up first, manages to kill off that demonette in the top left. Hundred is going to try and break his pin. He wants to move away from the Beastman champion and allow Ivor to get in there. Fails to do so and he's just kind of stuck. He does, however, take out his axe and put 5 more points of damage onto the champion. Ivor moves up and attacks that last Beastman. He's up a level, so Ivor's going to be -1 to hit. He misses twice with his axe, but he does manage to finally kill the Beastman with his Boots of Battle, even with a -2 to hit because of the change in elevation and just his kicks are less accurate. So pretty good job there. Those Beastmen are not bad. Toughness 4 with 6 wounds. So that brings us to Naughtiness Maximus, batting cleanup as always. Moves into the space where that last Beastman died. He now gets to attack the Beastman champion. Does a grand total of 11 points of damage, which is just shy. 28 out of 30 hit points. He's got 2 health remaining. You know what? Nah. 100 still has a bunch of those power counters to use. They get replenished at the end of every adventure. We're just going to use a bunch of them. We're going to cast Fire Hammer again. 3d6 damage minus the Beastman's toughness, more than enough to take off those last 2 health. The Beastman champion burns to death in front of our eyes. Hooray! Combat is over, we win. We go and loot the tomb and we find out that he's got no teeth, which is the good result. It means that it's the honorable family who has been able to prove his ancestry. We all get d6 times 100 gold, and this is all kind of worked out. It makes sense that the disreputable heir was the one who was wrong. He's probably lying about this whole ancestral thing in the first place. Anyway, Lief gets a paltry 100 gold, 100 gets 600, Ivor unfortunately only gets 200, and Naughtiness gets 400. That's a decent haul, but we're nowhere close to going up to 5th level, and plus, we just got here at 4th, we don't really want to go up to 5th right away. That said, this adventure was not hard. I do not feel like I was in any particular danger of getting killed. Maybe I was just lucky with the amount of monsters that I rolled. I certainly didn't roll that many. I mean, 2 sets of only having 1 demonette, that was pretty lucky. Same with the small number of mummies and beastmen there at the end. However, I'm kind of wondering with all the armor and rerolls that we're running around with, I don't know, I'm kind of starting to miss the old days where my guys would just get punished when they go into the dark depths of these dungeons. I'm definitely going to play another Battle Level 4 game, try these guys out again, see what other nastiness lurks in the dark, but I don't know, if it's getting a little bit too easy, might have to start over with a bunch of level 1 guys. Scratch that Games Workshop sadomasochist itch. But that's it for now. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I'll see you on the next one.